When one is horrible, it means that there is nothing that is objectively good and progressive that will come out of such individual.
If you have been convicted of an offense before and you have been pardoned, and anybody is trying to bring that up against you and calling you a convict, you have the power to sue that person for defamation.
Justice must not only be done, but it must be seen by all to have been manifestly done.
Every citizen has a right and every citizen has an obligation.
That a plea of ultra-virus acquit or convict is very different from the plea of pardon.
Trespass is that act that interferes with the peaceful.
No matter how minute this,
right? No matter how minute.
He who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Hello, you're welcome to another fresh episode of the program Justify Nigeria on ACNN Television, reaching from Abuja. On today's episode, our subject of discussion is on the supremacy of the Constitution, Part 2. My name is Anozechi Nomso, your anchor. There is no sovereign state that is not governed by laws. That is why laws are meant for man. In Nigeria, for example, we operate in the federal system of government with the Constitution as the principal guide. In one of the previous episodes of this program, precisely episode 54, we discussed extensively what Constitution is all about, how Nigerian Constitution came to be, and why and how the Constitution derives an overriding power over all other laws in the country. On today's episode, we are going to be looking at the essence and importance of Constitution, the difference between the Constitution and decree, the necessary legal legislative steps to be taken in constitutional amendment, and lots more. Joining me in the studio now to help us provide a legal insight and explanations to all of this is Barrister Emmanuel Omar Omakalo. He is a legal practitioner of many years of experience, the head of chambers at Hanafai and Associates, and also a member of the Unity Bar here in Abuja. You're welcome to the program, sir. Last time we talked about the Constitution on its entirety, and you really did justice to it. Just before we now delve into it very well, can you just briefly, for the benefit of those people who have not understood what Constitution is all about, briefly what Constitution is, just definition of Constitution before we move on the business of the day.
All right, thank you. Constitution is the written law or unwritten law of a state which guide the organizations of the state, organs of the states, and which provide for the rights and the principles that which the state operate with. That's why we say it is the operating tool. That is what will guide the state, the organs of the state, those that wield the power of the state, the direction to follow. It's more like the working tools that will direct. Remember what we said, if we don't have that working tools, it becomes so difficult for the state to operate, and so difficult that it will turn the state to be more like a banana republic. So it's a working tool that guides the principles, the organs of the state.
Thank you very much. Now, briefly explain the essence and importance of a constitution in a sovereign state. Of course, there are advantages, there are importance. Please tell our viewers.
Now, the essence of the constitution, remember what we said, is derived from the overriding powers of the constitution. That is why, remember at the last episode, we talked about the supremacy of the constitution,
yes,
which is derived from section 1, subsection 3 of the Constitution. If there is any law that is consistent with the Constitution, that any law will be void to the extent of the inconstituency. Now, that overriding powers is the essence of the Constitution. The essence and importance of Constitution is to promote the rule of law.
Okay.
Now, the essence also is to ensure there is peace and order in the society. If there is no constitution, if there is no guiding tools, there will be a breakdown of the law. The essence of the constitution is to act as a check and balances between governmental powers, those who wield the powers, in order to prevent abuse of power. The essence of the Constitution is because it stipulates the rights and duties of the citizens. And that is why it's called the protector and defender of human rights. The list is endless, but in all, the overriding powers of the Constitution is for the sustenance of democracy and to deepen the democracy.
That's just the fulcrum, the summary of the importance of the Constitution. All these things you just listed are embedded under this. Yes. Thank you very much. Now, oftentimes we hear Constitution, oftentimes we hear decree, and you agree with me that not all the viewers out there knows what Constitution. You have explained Constitution, decree. First of all, what is decree? Let me start from just a brief definition of decree. Then, are they or is it the same thing with Constitution, or are they different? Please let us know. So, what is decree?
Decree. When it comes to decree, what comes to our mind initially is being promulgated by the military.
Exactly.
That's what normally comes to
the mind of
but
yes.
in a expanded view, degree means so many things. But in our contents here, we want to narrow it down to the laws promulgated by the military. Now, when you come to degree, it's just simply an order made. Okay. But that order is also pursuant to the existing Constitution. It's always made pursuant to the existing Constitution. So in other words, a degree has the force of law, but it is an order made by the head of state in line with the existing Constitution. It normally comes this way when there is a change of government. Maybe the military has assumed governance. The next step is to suspend the Constitution. Once the Constitution is suspended, they will make an order. That order is the degree. Now, that order will be made pursuant to the existing Constitution, whereby some sections of this Constitution will be suspended, some sections of it might be altered to suit the administrative pattern of the military regime. So now, when it happens, that degree is the order which the military head of state has made in line with the existing Constitution, which must also go. It will go through the process a Constitution will go, but that order will first come from the head of state. Whereas if it is Constitution...
Okay, we are looking at the difference
yes,
now. Okay.
Now, if it is Constitution, it's coming either from the executive, from the legislature, and past different stages before the bill will be enacted by the Constituent Assembly. Okay. But this is coming from the head of state. Direct to the Assembly, and the order has been made. That order is pursuant to the Constitution to either alter or suspend some sections of the Constitution. And
because it's coming direct from the head of state, they must comply.
They must comply. That's why military regime is always dictatorship in nature. Okay. They just make the degree, that order.
Then give you for the formality's sake.
Give you for the formality's sake. For you to pass it through the constituent assemblies, the head of state, and the Council of the National Assembly, and the Governing Council.
Yes, Supreme Government Council. I think that's what they call it. Yes.
Supreme Governing Council. Once they pass through it, they suspend some particular sections of the Constitution.
Maybe the one that they think that is offensive to them.
Yes, and mostly it normally affects section, chapter 4.
Okay, the fundamental
human right. So they normally look at those suspend so that you may not have, just like what happened during the last military regime, you don't have that freedom of expression, because the degree that will come will have to suspend those particular human rights. So it is not a good one for us.
At all. So that means that when you talk about degree, it's a law made, then passed through the formality sake of the Constitutional Assembly to now make it to be a law, but it's no more going to be constitution, but it derives its power somehow from the constitution.
Yes, it is.
Unlike constitution that will go through first reading, second reading, final reading, and you also have to call civil society organization and of course
a public hearing. But in this aspect, you don't have a public
you
hearing.
see that democracy is very wonderful.
Yes, it is.
It is very wonderful. It's very wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, last time we are about to talk about the legitimate and of course the legal steps taken in amendments, and we discover it somehow encompassing. Now, can you just use this opportunity now and notify us and tell our viewers what are the necessary steps, legitimate steps taken, in amendment of Constitution?
So, in amendment of Constitution, it derives its authority. To amend the Constitution, the authority is derived from Section 9 of the 1999
It's like everything concerning Constitution, his power is also embedded in the same Constitution.
You cannot wake up one day and say you want to alter the Constitution, you want to amend the Constitution. So there is right in that Constitution, there is authority in that Constitution that will give you the authority to do so. So the authority to amend the Constitution is enshrined in Section 9 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Okay. And to that effect, the Constitution stipulates that for any alteration or amendment, it will undergo twofold proposal, which comes from the Senate and House of Representatives, and which must undergo 2/3 of vote to scale through in both houses.
Okay, in both houses?
In both houses. Whatever happened in the Senate must happen in the House of Rep. After the twofold proposal, it will undergo a resolution of 2/3 of the 36 state House of Assembly. So that's the process. Now, it usually starts as a bill. When there is need for amendment, a bill can come from the executive. A bill to amend can come from the legislators. It can come from private persons. And now, they will send the bill to either the Senate House or the House of Representatives. So the Senate President or the Speaker will receive the bill, the proposal.
From anybody?
From anybody.
So even a citizen can also do that?
Yes.
You discover that this is an interesting topic and you don't need to rush about it. So you are going to continue with it when we come back for break. Okay. Please, viewers, do join us again. Hello and welcome to the Speaker on ACNN Television, reaching from Abuja. The Speaker is a segment by which, or a platform that which treats a topical issue happening in the polity. On today's segment, we are going to be looking at lawful Nigeria or an unlawful Nigeria. My name is Anoze Chinomso. Being lawful is the ability or act of doing something in accordance with the law. Anything done in compliance with the law is legal, authorized, justified, and permissible by law. On the other hand, doing something unlawful is illegitimate, illicit, improper, and unconventional. It therefore means that when a nation, person or group of persons are doing things prohibited and contrary with the law, such nation, person or group of persons are unlawful in nature. With the kind of frightening things going on in Nigeria, I am moved to ask on whether we are living in a lawful Nigeria or an unlawful Nigeria. In a situation where some political elites are not obeying court orders is an example of an unlawful Nigeria. In a situation where some state governors are telling the world that they cannot pay salaries of workers anymore because of the legal quest that value-added tax VAT should be collected by states is not only annoying and a sign of irresponsibility on the part of those governors, but also a perfect picture of an unlawful Nigeria. Where the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, provided for the maximum protection of lives and properties as contained in Chapter 4 of the same Constitution, and yet killing of souls and spilling of innocent blood, together with massive destruction of people's properties, occur in Nigeria on a daily basis, is evidence that is visible to the blind and audible to the deaf that we are living in an unlawful Nigeria, where the government cannot wake up towards their responsibilities and punish accordingly these children of darkness and wicked men of the underworld. It's also a clearer pointer to the fact that we are living in an unlawful Nigeria, where the executive arm of government adamantly, persistently, and vehemently refuse to pronounce these bandits, Boko Haram and kidnappers, a terrorist group, even when the Senate has mandated the executive to do so. It's another fact of believing that we are dwelling in an unlawful Nigeria. When the law made is only complied with by the masses and the high and mighty, in quotes, and some political class rejects and dispense with the compliance of the same law with the wave of hand, also showcases an example of an unlawful Nigeria. When the judiciary only convicts and sentenced to jail an individual that steals a goat, but keep adjourning the case of that of political thief that stole public funds, to the extent of frustrating himself as a judge and the entire trial, is another clearer picture that we are living in an unlawful Nigeria. I think it's high time we began to give goats and naira equal value, because a thief is a thief. Whether you stole a goat or naira, you both are the same, because there is no difference between the number 6 and half a dozen. They are all the same. How can it be that when an individual takes a yam or fowl of his neighbor, we say he has stolen? But when a governor of a state pockets huge amount of dollars in his big native cloth, popularly called abada, he will not be convicted. Rather, he gets a befitting baptismal name of Gandola. What a shame. How can it be that the cost of commodities and goods are arbitrarily rising and increasing in this country, and our so-called leaders are saying and doing nothing about it? How can it be that a constitution that's supposed to be a tool and a perfect instrument for unity seems to be an instrument of division? The Nigeria of today is full of corruption. The Nigeria of today is full of betrayal. The Nigeria of today is full of spilling of innocent blood of citizens. Oftentimes I ask myself on how Nigeria got to this point, but I cannot get an answer. Is it that the fault is from the leaders or the led? I think only the womb of time will reveal. In order to justify Nigeria, I therefore speak, until the leaders play their parts in this country, and the led play their own part as well, by joining hands of unity and work together in order to ensure that a Nigeria of strong economy, love, peace, joy, employment, invention, and creativity is restored, so that the generation yet unborn will have a lawful, unified, and justified country they can call their own. We shall continue to live in an unlawful Nigeria instead of a lawful Nigeria. My name is Anozechi Nomso. I just want to speak. Glad to know that you are still there. We are still here with Barrister Emmanuel Omao Makalu here in the studio. Barrister, before we went on a break, you are trying to tell us the legitimate steps that we have to take in amendment of a constitution. Please take it up from there.
So, when the bill, they will send the bill, the proposed
and you say that anybody, private, if as you are, and myself,
yes,
might decide to say that he wants constitution to be amended, and
yes,
this the process is going.
And this is the
Go
process.
ahead. Okay.
But you are sending your bill through your representative from your constituency. Now, when the bill gets to either the Senate or the House of Representatives, the Senate President or the Speaker of House will receive it and send it across to the Committee of Rules and Procedure. The Committee of Rules and Procedure will lay it on the floor of the House for the first reading. Now, after the first reading, it will go to the second reading of the bill. After the second reading, there is what we call referral. After the second reading, the bill will go to a referral. So the House is going to refer it to the Committee on Constitution Review. After the referral, there will now be a public hearing of the whole bill. Remember what I said. Whatever go on in the House of Representatives
must the same
that goes in the
Senate.
So after the public hearing, it will go to the third hearing.
That's the final.
Now, but before the third hearing, after the public hearing,
Yes.
there will be a vote on each of the items proposed to be amended.
At that public hearing.
After the public
Okay,
hearing.
okay.
The public hearing.
It goes back to the House.
It goes
or
back
the
to
Senate,
the
as the
House.
case may be.
Yes.
After the public, it
After
now
the
goes.
public
Okay.
hearing, yes. So when it comes back to the House,
Okay.
the House members are going to vote, not a voice vote, normal voting on each of the item of the proposed amendment. Now, the point is this. When you come for amendment, you may have like 20 list proposals. Like this past procedure, we are already on constitutional amendment.
Yes.
There was a public hearing on, I think, first and 2nd of June.
Yes.
Then there was one of 3rd and 4th for the nationwide.
Yes.
That was held in Abuja.
Yes.
Now, so each of the proposed bill at that particular stage is a clause. So the items are listed. Like this present one, that is clamor for state creation. So let's assume it's 1. That is clamor for state policing. Let's assume it's 2.
Okay.
So there is other proposed items. So each of them is 1. So after the second reading and referral, it will go back to the House. So, but before we get to the third reading, each member of the House will vote on each of the clause. So now let's come to state policing. It means all the members must vote on state policing. And for state policing to scale through to third hearing, it must secure 2/3 majority votes of members of the Senate and also House of Representatives. So this has how the voting will go. For each of the item must go scale through the 2/3 majority of the vote. Now, then we'll now come to third hearing. After the third hearing, it will now be passage of the bill. The Senate must pass the bill. The House of Rep must pass the bill. After that stage, we are done with National Assembly. The next stage is to transmit the proposal to the 36 State House of Assembly.
That made up Nigeria.
That made up Nigeria. And the 36 State House of Assembly is going to sit over the proposed bills, and a resolution will be made. And for that proposed bill to scale through, it must secure the vote of 2/3 members of the 36 State House of Assembly. So 2/3 of 36 is 24 states.
Yes.
It means 24 states must vote in favor of the bill to scale through. If they did not scale through, that is the end of the bill.
You start afresh.
You start afresh to go through the process to see if that particular clause will scale through. No, at the State House of Assemblies, any clause that scale through, it will now become a bill to be sent to the president for assent.
Okay.
So after what goes on at the State Assembly, it comes back. So it's called report, bringing back the report from all the State Assembly back to the National Assembly. Then they will now send it to the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria for assent.
And once that assent
And
is
once
done,
that assent is done, it becomes law.
thank you very much.
Now, once it becomes
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, once it becomes law, it's a working tool, it's a constitution. Okay. Now, what happened then is when amendment occurs, it's either it alters the section that want to exist, or they will just go in line with the existing constitution, but you have a note attached to the constitution that this effect has already happened. So it's either it deletes or it alter it to the existing constitution.
Thank you very much, sir. When does the constitution need an amendment? Just briefly. Before we go.
I will come to that quickly, but there's something I want to add so that we understand this more clearly.
Okay.
If a proposal scaled through at the National Assembly and fell in the State House of Assembly, it cannot scale through. If the proposal scaled through at the National Assembly and also at the State House of Assemblies, but President failed to assent to it, it does not scale through. That is the issue. Now, it has to go through those processes to scale through. But the question is, looking back at that Section 9 of 1999 Constitution, there is no provision that the President must assent to the bill to become law. That has been an issue because at the last amendment, there are some bills that passed through the National Assembly and the 36 states voted in favor of those bills, but the President failed to give assent. Until today, he did not see the face of the light.
The issue of constitution can never be exhausted in one day or 2 or 3 episodes. Maybe with time, we can also bring you back to talk about, when the constitution could be amended and what have you. Please just always give us your time when we call upon you. Thank you very much for obliging us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
God bless you. It remains a statement of fact that law is meant for man and not man for law. Similarly, laws are meant to be obeyed by all concerned. Nobody is above the law. In a situation where some groups of individuals claim to be high and mighty, in quotes, and thus do everything possible not to be governed by laws, to the extent of disobeying court orders, is not just bad, but incurably bad. The 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, is not just the ground norm of our country, but our supreme and principal law that all citizens must obey. If, however, you find offensive any section or sections of the Constitution, the only option available to you is to seek redress and proper interpretation from a court of competent jurisdiction. Always remember that a nation without laws governing them is a chaotic one. Also note that when you have a law and you do not obey, it makes you lawless, irresponsible, and unreasonable. It is therefore advised that all citizens must, as a matter of necessity, endeavor to obey the Constitution and other laws governing the land at all times in order to ensure a healthy and strong nation. This is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Justify Nigeria. Join us same time, same station on another fresh episode of the program. Until then, this is Arno Zechin, and so urging you to be and remain a law-abiding citizen. And bye for now.